I never imagined my success would threaten my marriage, until she found out the truth. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and emotions. I held the trophy in my hands, the golden sheen glistening under the harsh lights. The cheers still echoed in my ears, but all I could hear was the silence in my heart. That I sat on the edge of the bed, trembling hands crushed against my thighs. My breath caught in my throat as I waited for her to come home. Rachel had always been my rock, my biggest supporter. We built this life together, brick by brick, and now it felt like it was crumbling under the weight of my success. The hushed whispers of my friends echoed in my mind. They warned me about fame, about how it could tear apart the strongest bonds, but I thought we were different. That I glanced around our small apartment. The smell of her lavender candles mixed with the faint scent of burnt toast from breakfast lingered in the air. It was warm and inviting, but all I could feel was the icy grip of panic. Would she still see me as the same person? Or would I be just a stranger in a spotlight, drowning in the allure of my triumphs? I thought about the late nights filled with laughter and shared dreams, our hands intertwined, eyes sparkling with possibilities. But now, the shadows loomed larger. I could sense the distance creeping in. My phone buzzed, snapping me back. It was a message from her. "We need to talk." My heart raced, each beat echoing like a drum in my ears. What could it be? Was it the rumors that swirled? The way my name was suddenly everywhere, plastered across screens and headlines. It felt like a whirlwind, and I was just a puppet caught in the storm. Suddenly, the front door creaked open, and there she was. Rachel stood framed in the doorway, her brow furrowed, eyes wide and searching. The warmth of her familiar presence felt like ice water cascading over me. "We need to talk," she repeated, but this time the tremor in her voice shattered my heart. I could see the confusion etching deeper lines on her face, the pain burgeoning just beneath the surface. She stepped closer, the room felt smaller. "I saw the interview," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The way you spoke about everything, it was like you were a different person." My pulse quickened. The truth hung like a storm cloud between us. Did I really show a different side? Was my ambition really a betrayal? Tears brimmed in her eyes, glistening like sharp shards reflecting pain and disbelief. I felt hot, my own throat clenching. The silence dragged on, thick and suffocating. I hurried forward, desperate to bridge the gap, but would my words be enough to mend what was drifting away? Her expression flickered, shadows of uncertainty crossed her face. "What don't I know?" she asked, her voice breaking. That my heartbeat thudded in my chest. I stood frozen, the truth threatening to spill forth, but what if it pushed her further away? I had to make a choice. I could tell her everything, risk it all, or protect her from the reality that was spiraling out of control. Conflicted, I opened my mouth, a plea hovering on my lips. But just then, her phone buzzed, cutting through the tension like a knife. We both glanced down at the screen. It was a text message, a name neither of us expected to see. The air shifted, thick with unspoken truths and dread. What had I gotten myself into? As I stared into her eyes, lost in the storm brewing inside, every hesitation clawed at my insides. Would this be the moment everything changed? Or were we already too late? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Rachel stood still, her eyes cascading over the name on the screen as if it were a foreign language. I could hear the faintest whisper of disbelief escaping her lips. "Brittany," she breathed, a mix of confusion and hurt lacing her voice. That it was my ex-girlfriend, a name I had worked hard to leave behind, the ghost of a past I thought I had buried, but here it was rearing its ugly head at the worst possible moment. My throat tightened further, and I felt like I was caught in the gears of an immense machine, each one grinding further into my conscience. Rachel's fingers trembled as she read the message. I could almost see the gears turning in her mind, the threads of doubt weaving a tapestry of suspicion. What does this mean? Why is she texting you now? After all this time? The words were like darts, sharp and painful, each one sticking into my heart. That I wanted to reach out, to touch her arm, to let her know that the mere existence of that name did not dictate my feelings or my loyalty. I was here, in this moment with her, struggling to hold on to what we built together. I don't know, I whispered, my voice cracking. I haven't heard from her in years. It could be anything, it might not even be about me. But even as those words escaped my lips, I felt the weight of them tumbling into the abyss of uncertainty. Of course, it could be about me. She was the one haunting my past, and now she was a reminder of everything I'd rather forget. Her face softened for a moment, but just as quickly, the hard lines returned. But this is different, isn't it? Your life has changed. You've changed. Maybe you're not the same person who walked away from her, she challenged, her gaze fierce, like a lighthouse fighting against the tumultuous sea. That I watched her from across the room, felt the divide growing larger with every beat of my heart. Rachel, please, I said, desperation threading through my voice. You have to believe that I love you. This, I gestured helplessly at the phone, is a ghost from my past, and it means nothing now. She took a step back, her breath shallow. I could see the turmoil swirling in her heart, the doubt battling against the love we had shared. I want to believe you, I do. But it all feels so overwhelming. The truth hung like a specter between us, a heavy silence thickening the air. It felt as if the walls were slowly closing in, and I was powerless to stop it. I wanted to scream, to shake her and remind her of the laughter we shared, the dreams we painted together, the plans we had for the future. But most importantly, I wanted her to know that in this storm of changes, I was still the same man she fell in love with. Suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door, startling us both. Hey, it was Mia, our neighbor, her voice laced with concern. I saw the lights on. Everything okay? Rachel's expression shifted, broken as fleeting as her guard instinctively rose. Yeah, we're fine, Rachel called back, but the forced sweetness betrayed the truth lingering in the air. I could see Mia's brow furrow with uncertainty, but she didn't press further. Rachel turned back to me, her body tensing. What do we do? This isn't just a small issue anymore. I can't ignore this. Her words stung, they were soaked in fear and vulnerability. Let's just talk, please, I urged. Let's clear this up. But deep inside, I felt the churning dread of old wounds reopening. Could we even navigate this storm together? The moment sprawled into quiet chaos, each second stretching painfully. Why does success mean so much to you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, vulnerability cracking her facade. Why do I feel like I'm losing you to it? My breath hitched as I pondered her question. The world outside, with all its accolades and praise, felt suffocating, a spotlight that threatened to consume me whole. But the real truth was what I feared the most, the recognition, the success. It felt like a lifeboat that was gradually taking me further away from the haven I found in Rachel. Rachel, it's not about losing you, I pleaded. This isn't about us changing, this is about me understanding how to balance everything. I didn't want to change, but maybe I have. I need your help to remember what matters. As the words left my mouth, I could see her vulnerability reflected in her eyes, and for a brief moment, hope flickered through the darkness. But just as quickly as it ignited, a sudden reality hit me. The text was still waiting to be addressed. The ghost of Brittany had emerged, and it wouldn't be silent for long. Tomorrow, Rachel finally said, her voice trembling as she moved away from me, the distance between us growing once again. We'll talk more tomorrow. Right now, I need space. She walked to the door, and as it creaked open, a faint echo of her earlier warmth floated away with her. I felt the weight of her words pressing down on me, stifling what little air was left in the room. As the door clicked shut behind her, I realized I was left with more questions than answers. Had I already lost her? The world outside felt unbearably quiet, a gray fog rolling in, smothering all the colors I had cherished just hours before. And as I sank onto the bed, cradling my head in my hands, I understood that tomorrow would be a reckoning. But in the dark corners of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the text from Brittany than just a simple reach out. And I prepared myself for a truth I was perhaps not ready to confront. In the flickering half-light of dawn, I lay awake, a hollow ache gnawing at me as I stared at the ceiling. The remnants of the night lingered still, Rachel's expression, her hurt, and the weight of the name I thought I had left behind. Reality clawed at my thoughts. The message from Brittany loomed like a storm cloud over everything I had worked to build with Rachel. I could almost hear the echoes of my past whispering doubts, projecting shadows on my happiness. That I turned to my phone, its screen a beacon of torment. The notification still glowed, a digital ghost demanding my attention. I wrestled with the urge to open her message, my heart pounding with an irrational mix of fear and a morbid curiosity. What could she possibly want after all this time? Could it be a plea for closure, or perhaps something as innocuous as an invitation to reminisce? I felt paralyzed. The sun rose higher, flooding the room with soft light, but I remained shrouded in darkness, caught in my thoughts. I heard a soft knock at the door, and before I could respond, it creaked open. "Hey, are you okay?" MIA's voice was laced with timidity, and I sat up quickly, attempting to mask the storm brewing within. "Yeah, I'm fine," I managed, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. She stepped inside, glancing around the room like she was searching for signs of the chaos that had gripped me. "You sure? I heard some shouting last night between you and Rachel." My heart sank. It's complicated," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady. I longed to confide in her, the urge to unburden myself was almost irresistible. But how could I explain all of this without dragging someone else into my mess? Mia sat down beside me on the bed, her presence somehow comforting in the midst of my turmoil. "You two have been through a lot. It's okay to have rough patches. Relationships take work," she said gently. "Have you talked to her about it?" "I'm trying to, but everything feels like a minefield right now. I don't want to lose her." The confession fell clumsily from my lips, the weight of it crashing down like a wave. "Then talk to her. Be honest about everything." There was a firmness in her voice that lingered in the air, a hopeful spark. "I've seen the way you look at each other. There's still love there. Don't let this whatever it is break what you have." Hope flickered in me at Mia's words. The love Rachel and I shared was, after all, something worth fighting for. Yet, my stomach twisted as I considered the inevitable confrontation with the past Brittany and the truth I dreaded might shatter everything. As Mia got up, her phone pinged, drawing her attention away. "Oh, I should probably check if Mom needs me," she said with a quick smile. "But seriously, you two will figure it out. Just communicate." Her encouragement lingered, a warm balm against the growing frigidness of self-doubt. Once Mia had left, I was alone again. The quiet undulated around me until it felt almost suffocating. I rose, compelled by an invisible force, to the living room and stared at the last remnants of the chaos laid before me. Coffee table cluttered with books published under my name, awards, and accolades, the fruits of my labor, but also the source of my current strife. Yet, despite all of this, my heart belonged to Rachel. I glanced at my phone, hands shaking as I swiped open Brittany's text, my breath catching in my throat as I read her message. "Can we talk? I need to clear the air." My world tilted. I had imagined a multitude of scenarios, but this was not what I anticipated. What did she want to clear? Did she know something? Did my past hold secrets that could unravel my future? Before I could spiral further, I resolved to text Rachel. But then hesitated. What could I say that would comfort her? Would it only amplify her fears? I'd have to face the situation head-on, be fully transparent. But the thought of plunging into the conversation consumed by the weight of Brittany's reach felt insurmountable. As I turned to grab a cup of coffee, the quiet cracked under the weight of the door creaking open again. My heart surged. With hope, Rachel. But it was Mia, her face pale, eyes wide with urgency. "I'm so sorry to barge in again, but you won't believe what I just heard," she blurted, breathless with excitement. "What?" I demanded, my heart racing as anticipation mingled with dread. "It's about Brittany. I overheard her talking to someone at the cafe. She wasn't reaching out for closure, she was talking about you, about how she wants to win you back." The world tilted again, my heart dropping as a heavy silence hung in the air. All I could think was the precarious balance I was trying to maintain, and the realization that the past was not only reaching out, it was colliding with my present. What if I had to choose? The room spun, leaving me breathless as I grappled with the reality that tomorrow held a confrontation far bigger than I had anticipated. The day wore on like a heavy shroud, each minute stretching into the next, leaving me with an overwhelming sense of despair. MIA's revelation clung to my mind like a stubborn cobweb, tangling my thoughts as I fought through the hours. The weight of Brittany's intentions bore down on me, and every time I glanced at my phone, a fresh wave of nausea rushed over me. Dinner time came too soon. Rachel stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta with her back turned to me. The scent wafted through the air, inviting yet tainted with tension. My heart ached with the urge to bridge the chasm that had opened between us, but a familiar paralysis gripped me. Instead, I slid onto a chair at the table, watching the steady rhythm of her movements, my throat thick with unspoken words. "Hey." Her voice broke through the silence, bringing me back to the moment. She turned, leaning against the counter, arms crossed defensively. "Are we going to talk about this? Or just pretend everything's okay?" The honesty in her gaze pierced me, and I longed to reach out, to dive into the depths of everything swirling between us, but instead, I donned the mask of indifference. "It's complicated, Rach, complicated." She scoffed, an edge of hurt in her voice. "You make it sound like an academic paper instead of what it is, a mess. I don't want to live in limbo. You're acting like I don't deserve to know what's going on." That I softened at her words, the tension in my chest constricting painfully. "You do deserve to know." I just what? Do you think keeping me in the dark will help? No. I just don't want to hurt you more than I already have." The admission fell from my lips like a whispered confession, and I regretted how easily it slipped out. I watched Rachel's expression shift, her defenses lowering for just a brief moment. "I thought we were past the hurt, that we could learn and move forward. But now it feels like I don't even know you." Her words were a punch to my gut, and shame flooded through me. I hated that I had let my past seep into our present, tainting the love we built. "I need to talk to Brittany." She reached out. The truth cut through me like a knife, and I immediately regretted saying anything. Rachel's eyes surged with pain, revealing layers of vulnerability I hated to see. "You're still thinking about her? After everything?" "I need to be honest, Rach." I paused, fingers trembling as I clutched the edge of the table. "I don't know what she wants. But I have to find out. What if it's a trap? What if she's trying to pull you back into a life that's already caused so much pain?" Her voice cracked, and I could see her battling between fear and anger. "I am choosing you, Rachel. I'm choosing us. But I can't ignore this," I insisted, leaning forward, desperate to convey my commitment to her. Even while facing this storm, for what felt like an eternity, we stood in a silence that brimmed with unuttered fears and deeply held desires. I could see the battle within her hurt warring with hope. That glimmer of light within her eyes ignited something fierce in me, a reminder of everything we had fought to build together. "Then let's confront this together. I won't be the one holding you back," she said finally, voice quaking but resolute. "I want to be right there by your side when you talk to Brittany. And what if I can't promise he'll choose the right path? Then we figure it out together. We don't let the past control our future," she replied, determination etched into her features. For a moment, I felt a sense of hope, a thread between us pulling tighter, affirming that we could navigate this together, but then a vibration cut through the moment, my phone buzzing violently against the table. I glanced down, dread pooling in my stomach. A new message flashed on the screen, and it was from Brittany. "I really need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please don't ignore me." Rachel's eyes darted toward my phone, and I could see the doubt creeping back in, dragging the warmth from the air between us. What does she mean by urgent? A wall started to rise again, heavy and daunting. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat, choking on their own weight. Two don't know. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. We both turned toward the sound, the tension thick enough to cut. "I'll get it," Rachel said, the resolve evaporating from her voice as she approached the door hesitantly. As she pulled it open, my heart raced, curiosity morphing into dread. I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this visitor would tip the fragile balance between worlds I had desperately tried to keep separate. When Rachel swung the door wide, a figure stood there, rain-soaked and trembling with a desperate urgency. My heart dropped as I recognized the familiar face. Brittany, her eyes wide with emotion. "Can we talk?" she asked breathlessly, locking her gaze onto mine. "I need you to know the truth." The weight of the oncoming storm was suffocating. In that instant, I realized we were standing on the precipice of something far more than I had bargained for, a convergence of past, present, and future, each thread about to unravel in a way I could never have imagined. The atmosphere in the room shifted, thickening with an unsettling cocktail of fear and curiosity. Brittany's disheveled appearance, the way her breath quickened in the damp chill of the evening, told me that whatever truth she held was heavy enough to bear down on both of us. Rachel's eyes flickered between us, uncertainty swirling before settling into a stony resolve. "Brittany," I began, but my voice faltered under the weight of everything that had transpired. The air became charged with electricity as Rachel took an involuntary step backward, almost as if she were trying to physically distance herself from this touchstone of our past. "Can we please talk inside?" Brittany pleaded, her gaze desperate. "I promise it's important." Before I could respond, Rachel's hand tightened into a fist at her side, her determination unyielding as she squared her shoulders. "Whatever it is, it can be said here. You can't just waltz in and expect everything to go back to how it was," she asserted, her voice steady but cold. "Rachel," I began again, determined to shield her, but she threw me a warning glance. "This is about me, too," Rachel insisted, holding her ground despite the fear pooling within her. The weight of her gaze sent a pang of guilt ricocheting through me. She had every right to defend our space, yet the thought of Brittany's admission bearing a consequence for our fragile equilibrium was a bitter pill to swallow. Brittany shifted, her eyes catching the dim light behind the threshold, sparking a moment of vulnerability in her. "If you can give me just a moment, I promise I'll help us all understand what's happening." Her voice quavered, brimming with an urgency that felt decidedly out of sync with the icy distance growing between Rachel and me. Slowly, I nodded, feeling the enormity of my decision wash over me. I stepped aside, granting entry to the woman who had once heralded my darkest days but, in this moment, bore the potential to unravel everything I had built with Rachel. Brittany breezed past me into the kitchen, and I could feel the shift in the room as her presence filled the space. "Let's not drag this out, Brittany. Just say what you have to say," Rachel demanded, her resolution like steel. Brittany cast a glance at me, silently imploring my support as she began to speak. "I wanted to talk to you both together because I didn't want to come between you. I know I've done that enough already." Her voice softened, weighed down with the gravity of her admission that I felt Rachel stiffen next to me, and I instinctively reached out for her hand, squeezing it for reassurance. She didn't pull away, but I sensed the tension that shimmered in the air could ignite at any moment. "That I don't want to be the cause of your pain, I want to be the truth you both need. I've been seeking help. I think I'm ready to let go of what happened between us, truly let it go," Brittany continued, her voice shaky yet determined. "But first, I need you to understand my side of it because it's not what you think." Rachel bit her lip, her skepticism palpable as I struggled to process Brittany's words. They hinted at a deeper hurt, a desperation buried beneath layers of regret that had never fully unraveled. "Then tell us," I urged, my heart pounding in my chest, torn between the fear of hearing a greater truth and the desire to understand. Brittany's breaths came shallow, her gaze darting between us as if she were teetering on the edge of an invisible chasm. "I've had to face some harsh realities about myself. There's something you don't know, something I buried." With that, she inhaled deeply, her eyes shimmering like glass about to break. "I'm pregnant." The room fell silent, and the air seemed to grow colder. Rachel's hand slipped from mine, her body taut, every muscle screaming with disbelief and sorrow. "What did you just say?" Rachel's voice cracked, barely above a whisper, the fight draining from her posture. "That I know this changes everything. I never meant for it to happen, not with you, not ever," Brittany rushed to explain, panic rising in her voice. "But I needed to tell you both. It's not just about my past with you, Jack. It's about the future, and that future might involve a life that is entwined with both of you." As the weight of her revelation hung in the air, a visceral mixture of shock and betrayal pulsated through the room. I could barely register Rachel's expression as her world shifted on its axis, uncertainty and confusion flooding through her. I felt as if I was drowning in emotions I didn't know how to navigate: fear for my marriage, guilt for my past, and a looming responsibility that threatened to engulf us both. "Are you serious?" Rachel's voice rose, faltering between anger and hurt as she turned to me. "You didn't tell me about any of this. How could you let it get to this point?" The storm brewing within her mirrored the tempest within me. I opened my mouth to answer, but the words wouldn't come. There was no defending against this tidal wave. Just when I thought I was grasping onto a semblance of control, everything crumbled. Brittany stepped forward, her eyes searching for redemption, but I was lost in Rachel's gaze, pleading silently for understanding as the fabric of our lives frayed between the three of us. "This isn't just about us anymore, this is someone else's life. What do we do?" Rachel's voice broke, cracking my heart open even wider, exposing the jagged edges of our reality. In that devastating moment, I realized we were all at a crossroad, a decision looming over us, waiting to determine which path we'd ultimately take, and as the truth settled uncomfortably in the air, I understood we were staring at a future that would bring either destruction or, perhaps, a flicker of unintended hope. The quiet of the kitchen felt like a deafening silence, punctuated only by the distant hum of the refrigerator. I glanced over at Rachel, her face pale, each breath she took a battle against the tide of emotions crashing around us. Her unwavering gaze bore into me, brimming with the anguish of betrayal and questions unspoken, wrapping around my conscience like a vice. "That I can't believe this," Rachel finally whispered, her voice trembling with pain. "You hid this from me, Jack. How could I have thought we were?" Her words faltered, collapsing under the weight of a truth too heavy to bear. "That I didn't know, Rach. I swear to you, I didn't," I pleaded, desperate to make her see. Brittany stood a few feet away, shifting awkwardly as if she were intruding on a moment meant for two. It felt like she was fading into the background, a specter in a painful play we hadn't auditioned for. Brittany spoke softly, addressing Rachel directly. "I didn't come to hurt either of you. I needed to own my choices, to try to move forward. I didn't think. Rachel interrupted, tears pooling in her eyes. "You didn't think this would affect us? The mess you've created." Each accusation hit me like shards of glass. I felt the need to defend Brittany, to clarify where the blame truly lay, but the words wouldn't come. They lingered at the tip of my tongue, clawing for release, only to be swallowed by the consuming fear of losing everything. "Rachel," I whispered, taking a tentative step closer to her. "This doesn't have to change us. Please let's just what?" She snapped, finally breaking away from my gaze. "Pretend this isn't real? Go back to the way things were? You think I can just ignore this?" As her voice cracked, a realization hit me with devastating clarity. She was right. Our world, the one we had spent years building, teetered on the brink of chaos, and all I could offer in response were empty reassurances that I didn't mean for any of this. Brittany interjected, her voice pushing through the residual tension. "I know I've hurt you both. I just want to be honest now, to make things right." Her apology held a tremor of sincerity. I could see the guilt etched into her features. "Honest?" Rachel scoffed, practically spitting the word. "We're all in the same storm here, but that doesn't excuse the damage done." "Stop," I said, my voice rising as I struggled to take control of the spiraling conversation. "We have to remember what matters. We can't let anger destroy what we have to figure out. I love you, Rachel." I reached for her again, hoping my touch would weave a thread of our bond back together. A flicker of hesitation passed over Rachel's face, a moment of vulnerability that threatened to unravel the steel armor she had enveloped herself in. She turned slightly, allowing me to cradle her hand within mine. But just as quickly, the warmth faded, tension flooding her features anew. Love can't fix everything, Jack. Not when there's a baby involved. What about that child's life? What if Brittany wants you back? What do you even want? Each word fell with the weight of a mallet, chiseling away at the remnants of our normalcy. Brittany looked stricken, her eyes wide, yet desperate. I don't want to come between you. I swear. I want to do what's best for the child. But I can't do this alone. I need your support, both of you. This was never how I imagined it. Rachel crossed her arms, drawing inward, her defenses fortifying against a fear more potent than the anger. You expect us to just help you because you said you're better now, yes? Brittany implored, her passion igniting into a flame of desperation. Because I'm trying. I'm working on myself. I just want what's right for my baby and for both of you. As the tension in the room spiraled into a cacophony of conflicting emotions, I felt lost. Rachel remained unyielding, while Brittany's earnestness began to fracture my resolve. I wanted to protect my wife, yet the notion of turning my back on what Brittany was saying felt equally wrong. In that moment, my phone buzzed incessantly on the counter, an intrusive reminder of a world that continued to exist outside of our anguish. I turned, reaching for it, hoping for some distraction from this unbearable reality. The brightness of the screen pulled my focus, revealing a message that made my heart seize. Jack, we need to talk. I know everything. The weight of those words crashed over me like a tidal wave, pulling everything into an abyss of uncertainty. Rachel's eyes, shooting to mine, wide with fear, echoed a question I could barely comprehend: how much more could we endure? And as I stood there, poised between loyalty and the precipice of betrayal, I realized that everything we thought we knew was about to unravel even further, and I was powerless to stop it. As I remained frozen, the phone still gripped tightly in my hand, the air grew thick with a tension that felt suffocating. Rachel's expression morphed from confusion to horror, each moment dragging her further into a well of despair. Brittany's nervous presence filled the room like a ghost haunting its own funeral, an uninvited witness to a tragedy slowly unfurling. Who is it? Rachel's voice was small, fragile, breaking through the oppressive silence. The question hung heavily in the air, one that tethered me to the truth I so fearfully guarded. Just someone from work, I stammered, unwilling to let her see how deeply the impending storm was already ripping through my heart. But even as I said it, I recognized the hollow lie. This wasn't just a work-related issue, it was a ghost from the past making its way back into our lives, dredging up secrets that felt insurmountable. Show me, she demanded, a fierce spark igniting in her eyes. I had seen that fire before, the way it could burn through doubt and lead her towards demanding answers, but now it came with a weight of potential destruction that I swallowed hard, weighing my options against the potentially catastrophic fallout. But in the back of my mind, I could see it lurking, that thread of responsibility I had pulled with my earlier choices. I had already put one foot on a treacherous path. Did I dare take another step? You deserve to know, Rach, I finally breathed, my thoughts cascading ruthlessly through my mind as I pressed the screen and handed her the phone. I felt stripped of my defenses, as though all my walls were tumbling down, exposing the raw reality of my betrayal. Rachel snatched the phone, her fingers trembling. Her darkened eyes flickered over the text, and I could practically feel the sweat of anxiety pooling at the back of my neck. As she read the words, her face morphed through a series of emotions, from confusion to anger, sadness that punctured her heart. Brittany stood silent, her hands clasped as if praying for forgiveness. This means you were lying again, Rachel whispered, the broken shards of her trust seeming to cut her as she spoke. About what happened with the promotion? About the way she reached out. Why didn't you tell me? Who is this person? Dread dripped heavily from every word, winding a choking grief around us. The truth was blinding, and all I could do was stand there watching, praying, wishing for the impossible to happen, that time would rewind, that I could take everything back. She's an old acquaintance, I managed to say, but the confession fell flat, proving inadequate against the weight of Rachel's disappointment. And what exactly does she know? Rachel pressed, her voice quivering dangerously. About the promotion, I hedged. About the long nights I spent working to make our life better. Rachel's eyes searched mine, a tumult of disbelief and anguish. I could see the fracture lines forming beneath her carefully constructed facade, the desperate need for reassurance clashing with the gnawing feeling of betrayal. "This is not just about work, is it?" she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet a resounding finality poised along each syllable. "This feels like it's so much more." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, the relentless reminder of my chaotic reality. Brittany, too, looked alarmed by the interruption but didn't step back. Instead, she looked at Rachel, her face a mask of urgency. "Rachel, please, I can talk to you. I've changed, and I'm serious about wanting to co-parent," she urged, her voice rising to meet our emotional storm. But the desperation in her tone fell on Rachel like rain against an impenetrable wall. "You've done enough," she snapped back. "You've torn the fabric of our lives, and now you want to stitch it back up. How can I trust either of you?" It was a raw question, one that echoed incessantly through the air. I was paralyzed, my past choices warring against my desire to shield Rachel from more heartbreak. The silence that followed was oppressive, and in that moment, I felt the fissure between us widen, a chasm filled with unspoken resentment and heartache. "Please, Rach," I finally whispered, reaching for her hand, but she recoiled, stepping back as her eyes darted away from mine. And then the doorbell rang, a sharp chime that sliced through the tension. Rachel looked at me, her expression a whirlwind of conflict. "What now?" "I'll get it," I muttered, my heart thudding against my ribcage as I ventured toward the door, feeling the weight of doom coiling within me. With every step, the anticipation curled tighter in my stomach. It had to be someone at the worst possible moment that I opened the door slowly, dread painting the edge of my vision. Standing there was a woman I hadn't seen in years, a woman whose face looked haunted yet determined. "Jack, we need to talk about something very important, about everything you thought you had buried." The gravity of those words pulled me under, and I knew that the storm was far from over. I could only sense the tumultuous journey ahead, as doubt settled in like an all-consuming tide. The woman at the door stood poised like a lighthouse amidst a gathering tempest. Recognition flickered in my mind, the name an alarming whisper that threatened to spill from my lips. "Emily," I breathed, the syllables heavy with the histories we shared. Suddenly, the world around me blurred, emotions crashing like waves against a crumbling shore. A knot twisted in my stomach as Emily's previously fierce demeanor melted into something softer, more vulnerable. Yet there was an undeniable urgency in her eyes. "Jack, please. We don't have much time." I barely registered that Rachel stood behind me, her expression shifting through indignation and betrayal, a mirror reflecting my own turmoil. Emily had been a distant echo of my past, a connection I thought severed after I had made different choices that had led me to Rachel. But that was before this moment, before the phone, before the severed bonds of trust had stripped me bare. Can we talk?" Emily pressed, her voice dipping into a fearful whisper. Alone, the question sliced deeper than any accusation. I could feel Rachel's mounting rage and hurt seeping through the air like poison, fueling the volatile space between us. "No." Rachel's voice cracked like thunder. "She has no right to be here, Jack. Not now. Not after everything." Her hands trembled at her sides, betraying the facade of strength she tried to uphold. "Rachel," I implored, my heart racing as I turned my attention to her. "This is important. Please let me explain." My words hung suspended, a lifeline cast into the turbulent sea of our deteriorating relationship. Emily glanced over my shoulder, her eyes wide with apprehension. "I know this isn't the best time, but if I don't tell him, it could put everything in jeopardy. I need him to understand why I'm here." "You think him interested in hearing from her? After the way she just showed up?" Rachel hissed, her fury channeling through me with all the intensity of a storm. "I can't believe you'd even consider this." I took a breath, weighing my options like pebbles in my palm. "What she has to say might actually help us figure this out, Rach. I won't let her tear us apart. I just need a moment." Rachel's quiet simmer boiled over, and she stepped forward like a soldier ready to battle. Then let her speak, then I want nothing more to do with you. The ultimatum hung heavy, suffocating any remaining flicker of connection. My heart twisted in my chest, the notion that one more wrong move could sever my relationship in ways I couldn't mend. I turned back to Emily, who looked like a drowning sailor calling out across the waves. "Fine," I said at last, my voice steadier than I felt. But only for a moment. With a cautious motion, I nodded for Emily to come inside. I dared to look at Rachel, but the fire in her eyes was more like ice now, and it chilled me to the bone. Once we were inside, the tension in the room felt palpable, like a tightrope strung high above a chasm. Emily took a step closer, her eyes pleading. "Jack, I really didn't want to be the one to bring this up, but this is about more than me. There's something you need to know about your promotion, and it involves my father." I flinched as the memories of my time spent with Emily seeped painfully into focus. Her father had been a powerful figure, a man whose name was uttered in awe and reverence in business circles. The realization sank like quicksand, dragging me deeper into an abyss I thought I'd escaped. "What do you mean?" My voice was hoarse, unsure of what jagged truth could follow. "Your promotion wasn't just about your hard work," she continued, her face grave. "My father had something to do with it. He orchestrated it behind the scenes, and now that he's facing scrutiny, so are you," Rachel interrupted, crossing her arms in a protective gesture. "Is that why you came here? To ruin his life some more? If this is just another scheme, no." Emily's voice rose defensively. "It's not like that. My father has been involved in something shady, and if the truth comes out, Jack, it'll put all of us in danger. You don't know the lengths he will go to keep this hidden." I could feel reality swirling around me, the threads of my life unraveling faster than I could keep up. I turned back to Rachel, who stood like a stone pillar, her expression unreadable. "Is this why you lied to me?" she asked, her voice breaking but conflicted. "Is there more? Did you know this would come back to haunt us?" "No. I didn't," but the words felt ineffectual, deflating against the truth I had avoided for too long. Suddenly, the chaotic web weaving its way through my life felt like an unwinding noose. My entire existence teetered on the brink of collapse, and I grasped frantically against the waves that threatened to pull me under. "Jack," Emily implored again, her expression softening. "I know this changes everything, but I didn't come here to hurt you. If this news becomes public, you could lose everything. Your marriage. Your credibility. Even your safety." With that, the world around me shifted, a jolt of reality crashing against the storm of my emotions. The stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. But as the panic coiled tighter around me, an unexpected voice broke through the haze. "What do you mean about my safety?" I asked, chest tightening, dread coiling within me with suffocating weight. As the words left my lips, a haunting realization crept in. This wasn't just a confrontation over betrayal, it hinted at something more sinister lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce when I was least prepared. The future felt uncertain, an impending storm swirling with dark clouds. Rachel's eyes searched mine, brimming with questions, but the truth was, I couldn't give her the answers, not without risking the very foundation we had built together. Just when I thought I could gather my thoughts, another vibration echoed from my phone on the table, a beacon of impending doom. I glanced down and froze. The message read, "We need to meet. It's urgent. Trust no one." "Who is it?" Rachel's question cut through the storm in the room. I looked from the phone to Emily, the weight of the chaos closing in around us. I hadn't even begun to reveal the truth. Instead, I found myself staring into an abyss, aware that at any moment, a secret I never anticipated could very well shatter the fragile reality we had left. The air hung heavy with the weight of unspoken words as the chaos of the moment settled into a taut silence. I could feel the icy grip of fear tightening around my heart, making each breath feel like a struggle against an unseen force. Rachel's gaze bore into me, her expression a tempest of hurt and uncertainty. Every tick of the clock felt magnified, echoing the unraveling of the very life I thought I was building with her. "Who is it?" The edge in Rachel's voice cut through my fog of confusion. I didn't know if I had the strength to look her in the eyes while I made a choice that could dismantle our already fragile connection. It's just a colleague," I managed to stammer, my words tumbling out like pebbles thrown into a dark abyss. But I could see the doubt flickering in her eyes, the recognition of vague unease that settled over her like a shroud. "Stop lying, Jack." Rachel's voice wavered. "I don't want us to become another story you can't bear to tell. We can face this together, but only if you're willing to be honest with me." The tension in the room thickened, as dark shadows of the past swirled around us, cloaking the truth like a menacing fog. I hadn't wanted this, hadn't sought to invite Emily back into my life, back into our lives. Yet here we stood, at the heart of it all, the storm raging beyond our control. "That I don't know if I can tell you everything," I admitted, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. "There are parts of this I've kept buried to protect you." "Protect me?" Rachel echoed, incredulity mixing with the pain in her voice. "Or protect yourself? The truth can't hurt me any more than the lies have, Jack. Just tell me what's going on." I just received a message," I said, my voice scarcely louder than a whisper. "Someone believes there's more to the situation than what I know. They indicated I'm not safe, that we aren't safe." "What do you mean?" Emily asked, anxiety knotting her brow. "Your promotion, it has implications I didn't fathom before." "My father, if he's desperate." Yet before she could finish, a knock echoed through the room. It was sharp, cutting through the tension like glass, unexpected, shattering. Rachel's eyes darted toward the door, disbelief clouding her features as though the universe had conspired against us. I felt a primal urge to reach out for her, but the moment fizzled in the cold air, choked by the uncertainty that loomed over us. "Whoever that is, they can't come in," Rachel declared, stepping forward as if to shield me from whatever calamity stood behind the door. "I won't let them in to drive a wedge between us, it could be important." I countered, a surge of urgency propelling me to the door. Each step felt like a betrayal to Rachel. "We can't ignore it. We have to know what they want." That I reached the door and forced my breath to steady, torn between the need to protect what I had and the recognition that silence only bred more danger. I opened it slightly, just enough to see a familiar face framed in the doorway, one I hadn't expected. "Kyle," I said, surprise coloring my tone as I registered his appearance, his expression a blend of urgency and concern. "Jack, we have to talk," he urged, pushing through the door without waiting for an invitation. "It's about the promotion and your new boss. The stakes are higher than you know." The air crackled with charged tension. Rachel's posture shifted, her incredulity morphing into suspicion as she crossed her arms tightly. "What do you mean? Are you going to tell him he sold out?" "Rachel, listen," I started, but Kyle interrupted me, his voice sharp and commanding. "Now is not the time for fighting. There's a lot you both don't know." He turned his focus back to me, the seriousness in his gaze anchoring the chaotic waves of uncertainty swirling around us. "Your promotion. It hit the radar in a bad way. There are people looking into it. People who may not stop until they find the truth, and it won't end well for any of us." My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a drum reminding me of the impending storm. The walls felt like they were closing in, secrets brewed in every shadow, threatening to spill into the light like a dam about to break. "Jack." Rachel's voice was soft, yet laden with confusion. "What does he mean? Are you in trouble?" I was silent, no words formed to bridge the chasm that had opened up between us. My world felt fractured, raw, like a reflection in shattered glass. All I could do was stare at Kyle, whose presence brought another thread of chaos with it, but also a flicker of hope. Perhaps he had the answers that could piece my world back together. But as I turned back to Rachel, the tears that glistened in her eyes told me everything I feared. I was losing her while new storms brewed on the horizon. "Jack, answer me. Don't leave me in the dark." Rachel pleaded, infinitely vulnerable, and somehow, it was both my saving grace and my undoing. I felt like I was dangling from a tightrope with no safety net beneath me, balancing between truth and deception, trust and betrayal. In that moment, faced with her raw honesty, I wanted nothing more than to hold her and promise her my devotion, yet the gravity of the impending revelation loomed like a silent predator, ready to pounce. And before I could gather my bravery, another message buzzed ominously from my phone, lighting up once more. "Jack, we don't have much time." Frozen, my heart raced as I glanced down at the screen. A name I never expected to see again flashed before me, sending another jolt of fear coursing through my veins. How did they find me? More than that, how could I share this news with Rachel when every secret pulled another thread from our fabric, threatening imminent collapse? There was no way to tell any of us where this was heading, only the haunting sense of urgency, hovering over the precipice of impending turmoil, ready to plunge into an unknown abyss. The room felt like it was collapsing around me. The weight of words left unspoken pressed heavily against my chest, each breath scraping against the shards of tension that clung to the air. Rachel's eyes flashed with hurt and betrayal, while Kyle's presence was a reminder of the chaos still lurking outside the fragile walls of our reality. I could feel the foundations of my life shifting beneath me, and dread gnawed at my insides like an insidious parasite. "Jack, are you going to say something?" Rachel finally broke the silence, her voice trembling as if the words themselves were encased in ice. "You have to tell me the truth about everything. What's really happening?" She reached for my hand, desperation flickering in her gaze. That I wanted to take her in my arms, to shield her from the gravity of the situation, but how could I when lying would only ensnare us deeper in this web of heartache? My heart raced as I struggled to find the right words. "Rachel, it's complicated," I managed, each syllable aching in its simplicity, masking the storm brewing inside. But deep down, I knew that was the coward's way out. The words hung in the air like a damning specter. "Complicated?" Kyle interjected, his voice slicing through my turmoil. "Jack, this isn't about complexity anymore. You're in danger. There's someone involved who has a vested interest in watching you fail. They won't hesitate to destroy everything you've built." I turned to him, trying to absorb his words like a sponge, but the surge of panic made it impossible. "What do you mean?" "My job. This goes beyond that. Your name is attached to something more malevolent." "The promotion?" "It came with strings you're not even aware of. It's not just about business anymore, it's personal." Rachel stepped back, her face pale. "What do you know? Who are you talking about?" Before Kyle could respond, my phone buzzed again, demanding attention. My heart lurched in my chest. I hadn't been prepared for this confrontation, and now it felt like I had stepped directly into a trap. With trembling hands, I glanced down at the screen. A familiar name sent shockwaves coursing through me, a name I thought was lost to the annals of time. It read, "I can help you, Jack. Meet me tonight. I'll explain everything. Trust no one." Every instinct told me to throw my phone across the room, to scream out against the unfairness of it all, but I remained frozen. Rachel's eyes fixed on the screen, the shifting emotions beneath her facade were impossible to ignore. Her resolve began to crack, revealing layers of vulnerability beneath the armor she wore so bravely. "Who is it?" she demanded, urgency flooding her tone. "Jack, you have to be honest now. Please." My heart pounded painfully against my ribs, the question echoed hollowly in the air, leaving us all suspended on the brink of revelation, a precipice laden with the weight of secrets about to be unearthed. "It's someone from my past," I confessed, the words spilling out like water breaking free from a dam. "They reached out to me about the promotion. They want to meet tonight." "What?" Rachel's voice was edged with disbelief. "You're seriously considering meeting them? In light of everything?" She stepped closer, fear knitting itself into her expression. "They might know things that could help us, that could help all of us. But I swear, I never wanted this to blow up like this. You have to believe me," I implored, desperation wrapping around my throat like a noose. Kyle interjected, urgency flickering in his eyes. "You can't go alone. If what I think is true, you need someone watching your back. Rachel deserves the truth, and you need protection." Rachel turned to me, conflict evident on her face. "What does this mean for us? Can we really trust anyone after everything that's happened?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my choice looming over me like a dark cloud hanging just above my head. "I don't know, Rach. But we're in this together. I'll find a way to protect you. Whatever's waiting for me tonight, I'll do everything I can to shield you from it. In that moment, a tender vulnerability flickered within Rachel's eyes. If you're walking into the unknown, I'm not letting you do it alone. If we're going to sort through this chaos, it has to be as a unit, no more secrets. The fire in her voice sparked something deep within me, a flicker of hope rising like a tide against the dark uncertainty that had loomed over us. Okay, I breathed, my voice thick with emotion. Together then. We'll face this together. As we stood entwined in that charged moment, a fragile bond rekindling between us, the doorbell rang again, shattering the moment, sending cold chills down my spine. Rachel's eyes shifted to me, alarmed. What now? I turned my gaze toward the door, uncertainty weighing heavily in the air. With each clang of the bell, the walls around us felt tight, suffocating with the potential fallout that waited on the other side. Wait here, I said, pulling Rachel close for an achingly brief moment, trying to reassure her as I approached the door, my fingers grazing across the wood as if touching the edge of fate. I opened it slowly, dread coiling around me like smoke. What do you want? I asked, my voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of anxiety. A woman stood before me, someone I had thought I would never see again. And yet, here she was, a ghost from my past with eyes that burned with determination. Jack, she said, her voice low and steady, cutting through the tension in the air. We need to talk now. With those words, I felt the world tilt beneath my feet, the weight of looming choices crashing down as the chamber of secrets around us threatened to overwhelm. I glanced back at Rachel, her expression reflected my own turmoil, woven into the fabric of our unpredictable lives, destinies entwined. We were caught in an intricate design of fate, and the storm that awaited us felt closer than ever, a ferocious tide threatening to break, leaving nothing but obliteration in its wake. As I inhaled deeply, preparing for whatever awaited us, the last remnants of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Sometimes, facing the truth was the scariest choice of all. But no matter what lay ahead, I refused to turn away. I owed it to Rachel, and I owed it to myself, and together, we marched into the dark, ready to confront whatever shadows lingered beyond. Let's end this once and for all, I whispered, a vow echoing through my heart, igniting a flicker of resolve. In that final moment, I finally understood. The only way to emerge from the depths was to love fiercely, forgive fully, and face the storm without fear. Perhaps, in the end, that was the only journey worth taking.